Mr. Bean,
Present.
Mrs. Gordon, Mrs. McCray,
Present.
Dr. Leatherwood, Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mrs. Hutchinson,
Present.
Mrs. Ware.
Present.
Okay, there's a quorum present. The next item on the agenda is communication announcements and schedule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Monday, May 27th, of course, we're closed for Memorial Day. We will march in the Memorial Day Parade that is sponsored by the Village of Madison, and we will leave from our old district office at 10 a.m. on Monday, May 27th. Wednesday, May 29th, is our graduation at the Tinley Park Convention Center. I will give additional details in my report as we look at that evening. June 3rd is the last day of school. Just a reminder that we added one additional day onto our school year because of inclement weather. Monday, June 10th is the first day of summer school, so we will be technically down 1 week for staff development before summer school, and then Tuesday, June 18th is the next 162 board meeting. If I could, Mr. President, I'd like to acknowledge that we will be inviting all of our retirees to June's board meeting, and it would be our pleasure to have the opportunity to thank them for their years of service and to honor them. And then downstairs, we will have a tea, a celebration for them, collectively over 300 years of service.
That concludes the superintendent's report. The next item on the agenda is audience to visitors. Is there any member of the audience who would care to address the board on items on the agenda? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. As is the practice, if there's any item on the consent agenda that any member would like removed and made a debatable item, they can do so at this time. Is there any item that any member would like removed and made a debatable item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. President,
Yes.
move to approve the consent agenda dated April 17th, 2024. Actually, should be dated May 21st, 2024, and every item contained there.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. President, I would simply like to draw to the attention of the board the large numbers of individual contracts that we're doing for our summer school staff. We will give you a report on summer school, but we're a union district, but the summer school staff is, they're employed individually, and so therefore you see their names listed and where they will be located during the summer section. So that is the reason for this, an extensive agenda.
Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Bean,
Aye.
Mrs. Gordon. Aye. Mrs. McCray,
Aye.
Dr. Leatherwood,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mrs. Hutchinson,
Aye.
Mrs. Ware.
Aye.
The matter has been adopted. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our closing enrollment is 2,433. And I simply want to draw your attention to, once again, we are bottom heavy. And so if you look at the sizes of our schools, you'll see that we have more than what would be customary in terms of the younger children in the district. And then moving upwards towards the Huth, you'll see that our closing enrollment with the Huth is 376, which is certainly the smallest enrollment since I've been here. Moving on, I'm going to ask Dr. Tomich if he would come forward, and he's going to discuss a number of things, mandatory summer school, the structure of STREAM, the locations, and what is our focus, Dr. Tomich? Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, Dr. Davis, and good evening, Board. We're going to begin, if you can look at your screen there, right there, we have students that have currently registered for mandatory and recommended summer school program. Started the process back on April 26th. We're very aggressive about sending email communications out to parents that would either classify for a mandatory summer school program or for the recommended. And then we also had our leadership teams call and conference in that. So out of 310 emails that we sent out, or letters, we have 260 students registered. We're going to average about 2 to 3 students per grade level, 2 to 3 teachers per grade level. And then each classroom is probably going to be on average between 10 to 12 students per class. So right now we're in really good position here to move on and planning moving forward. And then the one other big item is that we are fully staffed as well for summer school, which is excellent. And then next slide then. That's our STREAM enrollment. So STREAM is going to be a little bit different. It's K to 7. Our numbers are quite higher. We're looking at anywhere between 60 to 50 per grade level. Concerning student enrollment, we're averaging anywhere between 3 to 4 teachers per grade as well for the STREAM program. So class sizes are going to be larger. They're anywhere from 15 to 20 depending on what the grade level is. Right now we are registered at 404. We actually started this process and sending emails out to parents concerning our program, STREAM program, on May 2nd. So this has only been going on for about 2.5 weeks. We already have 404, which is excellent. So total registered for summer program right now, pre-K to 8th grade, is 665. Next slide, Eric. All right, concerning locations, so our preschool program is going to be at Richmond Square. We're looking at about probably 50 students there. Madison programs K to 3, and once again, for these buildings right here, this is going to be the mandatory and recommended. Madison K to 3 is going to be about 100 students. SOC 4 to 6 is going to be around that 85, 90 range. Southland, which is the 7th and 8th grade, only, where we're probably looking at about 25 to 30 students, and they're going to probably be housed in about 4 to 5 classrooms on the 3rd floor. Illinois is going to be our largest summer program. That's going to be the STREAM, and we're probably looking at about 450. Base program, that'll be at the Madison, so we're going to have 4 classes over there, and then also at the Richmond Square for our pre-K students. So next big steps from an operational standpoint is looking at our busing and building routes right now. And also another pertinent date is June 7th is when we're going to have our planning day with all of our summer staff. And summer school is from June 10th to July 10th. It's about 4 weeks long. All right, Eric, next slide, please. So we're on the summer school programs encompass the following. So you go one slide back there, Eric. So for our mandatory students, anybody that's under a 1.5 GPA, and that will be confirmed as of June 3rd, they would be part of that mandatory program, and they would have to go, and they would have to pass the program with the C average. After or by June 3rd, if any of those students are up above that 1.5 GPA, then they transition over to the recommended program. Recommended program, the focus is on English language arts and also mathematics. We look at daily performance, overall grade. We also look at how they perform on our assessments, and then also what our getting teacher feedback as well. And then last but not least, we do have a preschool program, which there's an age requirement that you have to be 5 by the age of, or by September the 1st, and they're going to reinforce basic academic skills, social skills, and just hopefully we're going to have a really good transition for them going into the fall. And then last but not least, we have classroom experience. So for our recommended and mandatory students, class averages, once again, is going to be around that 10 to 12 range. From a curriculum standpoint, the kids are there for 4.5 hours. So there's going to be a 2-hour focus in mathematics, 2 hours in English language arts. And in that 2-hour session, there's almost going to be like 3 mini lessons. There's going to be whole group instruction, direct instruction by that teacher, small group work then, and then independent work from that child. So that's what the experience generally is going to be. From an assessment standpoint, the whole district actually just completed the STAR 360 assessment. We'll take a look at how our students completed or how they performed in the spring benchmark. Summer school teachers will have access to the student diagnostic report, which really does a deep dive in English language arts and mathematics, strengths, weaknesses, and things that they should focus on with their students during summer school. So we're going to use that as baseline data, and then at the end of summer school, we're going to take the STAR 360 again to see what kind of progress we've made. And I think our overall goal is just to make sure that there's a smoother transition for kids when they come back in the fall time. And I think our next step, our next program.
Thank you, Dr.
Davis.
Talmadge. Before we move on to STREAM, are there questions about mandatory summer school?
I did have a question.
Sir?
So I wonder the individualized, structure of because you said it's 3 mini lessons?
Yeah, it can be anywhere from 2 to 3 mini lessons. I think it just depends on what the student needs are and what their focus is for that day.
Okay, so you do have a general thing that's going to be taught every single day.
Yes.
And then it could be, specific based on what students' needs are, based on the 360. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yeah, it'll give us some feedback from the standpoint of how the kids just performed on the STAR 360. And what the staff are going to have, they're going to have like a pacing guide for 20 days, which is scripted to the focus standards for English language arts and mathematics. It'll be leveled as well, and also depending on what the student needs are, that information is going to be there for the teacher. So they're not going to have to do a lot of supplemental research and that kind of thing. It's going to be very scripted for the teacher.
Thank you.
Just a reminder that the 7th and 8th grade mandatory summer school, which is here, the 8th graders will not march because until they complete their requirements, that is not something that we've ever done at 160. And so 162, I'm sorry. So therefore, they will receive their diplomas directly from me if the parent desires, or we will mail them home. But they will be here in this building because they're older. But also remember, this is the year 2 of Project Hooth. And so therefore, Hooth will be a construction site, and we will be moving in that direction. So that's another reason that we will not be using the Hooth. Before we go on to Dr. Kruger and the STREAM program, construction, we will be at all of our sites involved with some kind of construction. At the Madison, for example, we're putting in 3 new playgrounds, in addition to air conditioning, the gym, and we're looking forward to that. But all of the schools, with the exception of the Richmond, which does have an air-conditioned gym, we will be up on the roofs. The air conditioners are actually here. We're storing them in our annex, except for in this building, they're off-site. So I do thank the board for allowing us to order them in time for us to begin on June 4th. As soon as we're able to clear the buildings, that's when we're able to bring in the lift trucks and lift the air conditioners up to the top of the building. They range from 25,000 pounds to 45,000 pounds, so it depends upon the size of the school and the air conditioning. At the Arcadia, of course, we are scheduled to not only redo their library, and that's been in the works for almost a year. We thought we were going to be able to do that as a Christmas present. I guess the supply chain had other, there was another intent, and so that is a summer project in addition to the air conditioner and the roof. The Indiana also will receive a new redesigned library STEM unit, and so we're looking forward to that, and air conditioning. So I just keep mentioning the air conditioning because it's getting warmer, and we have to tolerate this until we can get to June 4th. June 4th is when we begin with the first school and move through. It's going to be a fast-paced summer because that'll be a lot for us to accomplish in a short period of time, but I feel confident that we'll be able to do it. We don't know where, if this is climate change, where it's going, but we do feel that the level of heat is getting higher. You can feel it also if you're sitting next to the windows. But I'm happy to report that the air conditioners are here, the architects are prepared. Our roofers also will be up there because when we remove air conditioners that have been in place over 20 years, we anticipate that there would be some damage to the roof, which would be repaired simultaneously. But all of our buildings will, with exception of the Richton, will be air conditioning, and the Richton only because that's actually a building that I don't know when previous boards, maybe Ron Bean knows, sold the building. 162 purchased it back, but when we purchased it back, we rehabbed it at the time, including air conditioning. So that's where we are. But in addition to summer school, which will be our largest summer school really in the past 10 years since we've been keeping track of the numbers, it will be a very busy summer for the non-educators as we work towards stabilizing the temperature in our schools. But Dr. Cougar, you're sitting there. Dr. Cougar did something that he's very good at. He went to the teachers and asked the question, in the best of all possible worlds, what kind of focus would you use as a teaching tool to bring excitement into the classroom, to bring interest into the classroom, but ultimately to teach them a skill? So, Dr. Cougar, what do we look like? What is STREAM?
Good evening. I know you guys. How you doing, Mr. President and board members? I know you're sitting on the edge of your seats because you're ready to hear this exciting thing that we're going to do this summer because it's going to blow your mind. I mean, like, oh. Anyway, Dr. Davis did charge you with the task of developing the STREAM program. So we had 4 objectives that she wanted to make sure we addressed. One, make sure that we create some exciting, interesting programs for the kids to be engaged in. 2, to make sure the kids are building on skills that they'll need in this new technological age that keeps shifting as they progress forward in their lives. 3, we want to continue the work that they've done in the school year with developing critical and problem-solving skills. And then, of course, helping to close that diversity gap within the STREAM community, making sure that we have a group of learners who can view these potential opportunities as jobs and careers. Typically, we hear our kids say, I want to be a professional athlete or I want to be a performer, where there's a lot more stable jobs out there that they could participate in, particularly those who are engineering. Anyway, so some of the programs that we'll be offering. Now, the programs were strategically done. We want to make sure those things that the teachers were comfortable doing. So they came with a plethora of ideas, and they're excited to implement them. I know one of the programs that we did once in the past was SNAP circuitry. We do have SNAP circuitry, so I want to answer that question right now. We do have SNAP circuitry, but we're not offering that program this year. SNAP circuitry is a very intricate program, and those pieces to the puzzle I want to make sure I have available when we have a tech teacher that can handle that. Since these are content area teachers, STEAM is something that's not normally new to them, but these are hobbies that they have in their own personal life or they've done when they were in college as well. We do have some science teachers, so we'll get into some of the courses that we are offering. World language. So at the primary grade level, we have a teacher coming in who's a Spanish teacher, so we're going to offer Spanish to those kids in the primary grades, and not just the language itself, but some of the cultural experiences that they have. At the 7th grade level, we have a parent who is a former parent in our district her nationality is Japanese. So she's going to come in and teach our kids the culture and experiences of being Japanese as well as some of their languages. Her sister is a master calligrapher, so she'll be flying into the country, not for us, but she's coming into the country. So she's going to actually offer the kids a class in calligraphy. So they're going to learn how to write their name in Japanese and a host of other things like that. Now, we also have biology. In biology, we have a study of life cycles, the typical caterpillar to a butterfly, African dwarf frogs and how they are community related in an aquatic environment. 7th, 6th graders and 7th graders will get to do some dissecting of worms, pigs, rats. Coding, I love the coding. Please don't ask me the language because it's typically Java, but we'll see. Robotics workshop, of course, at the upper grade levels. The primary grade levels will get into a project called Lego Essential Education. Then you have our kids at the 1st grade levels. They'll also get into coding with a program called Kubo. little small robot that they're going to train to go in various directions that they choose for it to go. Real high interest for those kids. It's the beginning point of understanding coding. Now, for those athletes, we didn't forget about them. We have sports camps as well. Kids will learn the logistics of golfing, playing basketball, soccer, volleyball, softball. They'll think they were having fun, but they're actually going to be learning mathematics. At one point in the camp, they'll actually learn to design their own gym shoe. We won't tell them that, though. Just let them think they're just having fun playing sports. Of course, we are big on performing arts. I am the director of performing arts, so, of course, we're going to have to offer that. The beauty of the way we have the program structure, these classes are roughly 42 minutes. So you'll have 4 teachers who will provide stream activities. Then that group of kids will be able to go to a performing arts class. So if they never had strings before, they'll be getting introduced to strings, or band, or drama, or dance. So they'll get a full enriching experience, not only in the academic setting, but also in the performing arts setting. Finally, you thought I was done. I know you thought I was done. I'm long-winded. I can't help myself. The visual arts and crafts. Kids in the 6th grade will learn Photoshop. You know how the kids always like to take those pictures and selfies? Well, now we're going to teach them how to, whatever they do, manipulate it so that it becomes the best looking picture in the world when they post it on social media. We'll also be redoing video production as well. And now, didn't forget our beginners. So 1st grade as well, no, kindergarten and 2nd grade will learn a program called Scratch Camp. It's a visual arts program that's graphic. So by the time the kids are done, they'll be able to produce their own technical graphic storyboard using movements, voices, animation, all of that. Cool. And I didn't forget about engineering. In one of our classes, the kids will be reading a book that has a background of amusement park. So once they've completed that book, they'll be building their own amusement park with Connects. In light of the incident with the bridge that happened a few weeks ago, we have a class with kids who are learning the structures of bridge building and how they can secure a stronger bridge through Connects. In addition, we'll do some civil engineering, some planning, so kids will learn how to build their own zoo. And last but not least, the history of flying, aeronautics. So most people don't know that air balloons, from the time the man decided they want to fly, these kids will learn that beginning with developing their own hot air balloon, transition into their own personal flying remote control device. Hopefully we'll see how far they get. It's a whole lot to get to till we get there. Now, of course, as you know, we don't like to just end our summer enrichment activity. We're going to have a culminating event, a curriculum fair, a performance of sorts, which will take place on July 10th. Is that right, Ms. Dr. Healy? And it's going to be fun. So please take this as your personal invitation to come out and hang out with the kids, see what the work they've done, and watch the performances of the choir, the band, the dance. It's going to be a hootenanny. Positive hootenanny.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cougar.
Thank you.
I would suggest that rather than just coming to the July 10th event, you might want to drop in on some of those classes. I don't know about the dissecting frogs, but I'm interested in some of the other things. But seriously, I think it's the reason that over 400 parents have decided that they want their children to have the benefit of our creativity. That's what it will be. But I'm really believe in year-round schooling. I actually do. So anything that we can do to make children want to come to school and to be with us, I think every moment spent with a teacher is a moment that you learn something, no matter what. And sometimes you just learn it by having a conversation with a teacher. That's what a good teacher does. It's an art. But thank you, Dr. Cougar. Fascinating.
Dr. Cougar, just a minute. There's one question, Bob, from a board member.
Dr. Cougar, I was just curious about the dissection. I know that there are software programs out that mimic the skill of dissection. Is that what we're doing, or are we actually going to have the...
We do have 3D laptops that allow kids the opportunity to do digital dissecting within the three-dimensional range, but they will be dissecting actual animals.
Excellent.
They'll be dead, of course. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Just for those who didn't know. Yeah.
I thought it was like an art that, has been going away with all the advances in technology. And I just think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the kids getting the real frogs and
Right.
worms and,
Well, I
Piglets.
can tell you, it was from the fact of dissecting I think it was a frog my freshman year, a pig between junior and senior year. I fell in love with becoming a medical doctor. First semester lectures didn't help much, so I became a band director instead. You know what? That is what it is. Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Cougar.
Just one other question. Is the stream is also 4.5 hours a day?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I do have a quick question as well. Is there any, can you say a little bit more about AI and how AI has been, it sounds like you do have some laptops and kids that be able to engage some digital platforms. But is there any room for AI in this?
Not at this point. And the only reason that being said is we really don't have a technology teacher who's participating in these programs. These programs are actual content teachers, and they're interested though. But I was actually speaking with a teacher about the chat bot and its new format. Apparently, the new version of it has an embedded language program where it translates on the spot, kind of like the Star Trek where you got that little badge and it's talking to you when you're speaking to other nationalities from other countries. So it's real cool. So yeah, we are aware of that AI and what it's doing in real time, and trying to keep abreast of how we can eventually use that within our own classroom settings to help enrich kids.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Thank you, Dr. Kruger.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Dr. Cougar. And you did hear Dr. Cougar mention that we will have workshops in Japanese, but we are seeking a teacher that could introduce a study of Asian cultures as well as a study of Japanese into the district. And we will continue aggressively until we find someone. This is not the world. Madison 162 is a small segment. Our children need to be comfortable with other cultures, people that look different, but they have to know something about it. And I think learning about another culture and also their language, which is very different than ours, is something that we need to do. But also, the board is well aware that we're the only country where most of us speak only one language. When you travel 2, 3, et cetera, as a matter of fact, in this building, we just hired a French teacher, and if I'm not mistaken, he speaks 7 different languages. He's native French. And so I listened to him as he went from one language to the other, and I thought, oh my goodness. But the Asian culture, as we know because we watch the news, is permeating the world. We need to understand it. We need to not fear it, but we do need to understand it. But in order to do that, the person that would be best be able to give us the information that we need is someone that is from that culture and that segment of the world. So that's what we're looking for. And then finally, this coming Wednesday, the 29th, at 7 p.m., we will march 230 strong young people. Not our largest graduating class, because it can't be if, in fact, the Huth and Illinois are smaller at the middle school grade than they have been in the past. But 230 students, we've begun that process. We will be at the Tinley Park Convention Center, and it's my understanding that you received information about the program as well as Caps and Gowns. So we look forward to that program. But if I may answer questions about anything, and we're going to end with a picture. You see the Huth, and you see the sign that says under construction. Okay. So we will have a lot of those signs as we move throughout the district. But June 4th is the date. June 4th is the date, and everyone that's on that side of the house is prepared. It's going to be difficult because, our teachers love to come back to school early, decorate their classrooms, et cetera, but I think they would be even more grateful to come back to a cool building where they can be comfortable. So I do think that they will be tolerant of what we need to do during the summer to make that a reality. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay, are there any questions for the superintendent on her report? Hearing none, Dr. Davis, is there any new legislation?
There is no legislation at this point. However, there very possibly could be. The legislature, I think, is going to not close until the 30th of May, which generally signals to us that there is something that they wish to pass. So they have not yet closed for the summer. So we will await the decision as to whether or not there's legislation that affects us.
New business, entertain a motion, please.
Mr. President, move to approve the purchase of student Chromebooks for the 2024-2025 school year from Dell in the amount of $172,761.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we purchase the Chromebooks. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. President, what we're doing is supplementing the 3,000 Chromebooks that we already have. This week we'll be in the process of collecting them. It would be a rare year that we collect Chromebooks and some of them are not in need of repair, or we might need to simply replace them. And so we're anticipating that, and that is the reason for the order of the new Chromebooks. I do think that in the future, all children worldwide, provided that the resources are available, we will be going to school with a one-on-one device. And I think we will be moving into more sophisticated devices as time goes on. We don't know what is being planned now, but this is in anticipation of the fact that some of them will not be usable for the upcoming school year.
Any questions for the superintendent on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Ware?
Aye.
Mrs. Hutchinson?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Dr. Leatherwood?
Aye.
Mrs. McCray?
Aye.
Mrs. Gordon?
Aye.
Mr. Bean?
Aye. The motion's been adopted. The next item is a motion regards the working cash fund.
Mr. President,
Jefferson.
I move to approve the working cash abatement resolution.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. England, please.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
This will be the final working cash abatement. As you know, those bonds that were issued, I believe it's about a year and a half ago, those have been utilized for a lot of the construction expenses. And as we enter the summer months now, and we start some of these summer projects, as Dr. Davis mentioned, this will be the final transfer for some of the payment of those projects.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bean?
Aye.
Mrs. Gordon?
Aye.
Mrs. McCray?
Aye.
Dr. Leatherwood?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hutchinson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ware?
Aye.
The matter has been adopted. The next item on the agenda is old business. There's no old business.
No, sir.
Board members' issues and reports.
President, I just want to take a moment and recognize something that happened in my class at the University of Chicago, Educational Excellence in U.S. Public Schools. We had the benefit of being graced by Dr. Davis, and it was a master's class. So many students came to me afterwards, and they were like, how do I change into this teaching profession? How do I become someone who can impact children? Even in their final papers, which they were already working on, I just saw so many references to things that you said during the class. Dr. Davis, I said it there, and I want to say it here. I am just floored by your generosity. I know that you have a ton of things to do, and your time is very precious. And for you to come all the way to Hyde Park to be with our students, with my students, and to provide something that was just premier, I am very, very, very grateful. And so young people's minds are being changed, their hearts are being touched, and I am just excited to be witness to what I think was a transformative experience. So with that being said, on behalf of the class and myself, I just want to say thank you again, publicly, for taking the time out to spend some, to just spend some time and some words on these kids. And I think that their lives and my life is improved because of it. And so I just want to share that with everyone. It was a master's class, master's class. So thank you so much.
Mr. Bean, perhaps there are board members here that were present, and I see Dr. Mays and Mrs. Calvin. This year, we had the Huth, Illinois Honor Society induction here. And I thought it was just absolutely magnificent. So compliments go to all of you. But I would love to hear what a board member thought about the experience.
Are you looking at me, Dr. Davis?
I am, Mrs. McCray.
I happen to be present. Oddly, you'd look at me. Yes, it was an amazing past few days. Speaking of Dr. Davis's time, before even the Honor Society, I was able to attend the awards banquet for the high school, the athletes. It was wonderful. The parents were so proud. The students were so proud to get their awards, and it was very heartwarming that they had that moment prior to graduation. So I know that's the apex of what's going to happen for them. And following that, her time, again, she was able to attend 2 honor societies, 162. Dr. Davis, she did not underplay how wonderful Mrs. Mays and Mrs. Calvin had that program. The students were just looking great with their new sweaters on. They looked like little Ivy League players. And they were very happy to be there, and their parents were happy to be proud that they had got to that point. They had really undertaken the academic process that they've got here and taken it to the top. So that was wonderful. And equally, the high schools was magnificent. The choir sang. We have our own built-in entertainment, which is always fabulous. And for any of the parents who hadn't seen the quality of our fine arts program, they did have that little plus to also go along with cheering their students along. So Dr. Davis has been quite busy doing what she does, good busy, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I was wondering, with the addition of the Chromebooks for the students, has it been a while that we've updated our staff laptops and computers?
No, but Mr. Evans is here. Give us the status of the laptops for staff, please.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So we are on a cycle about every 5 years that we replace laptops. So 162 teachers should have gotten new laptops, I believe, 2 years ago. So they're just 2 years in. So they're relatively new to what we consider for our standards of replacement. So.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, one more thing. I want us to consider, if at all possible, because there's so much activity happening across the district, if there could be some kind of uniformed means of communication, maybe a calendar invite or something else that allows us to, download to our calendars, all these different wonderful activities that are happening. I do have a message in my phone that I keep referencing in my text messages, but some of the stuff could get lost, and I don't want to miss anything if at all possible, if I could just lock it in and give myself a reminder. And so if there's some way, not to add work to anybody's, docket, but if there's some way to come up with a streamlined, one-stop shop for all the things happening at the, here at the district that could be shared with us and we can accept and it be on our calendar, that would be fantastic.
We can do that, and we will.
Thank you so much.
No further discussion. The next item on the agenda is audience to visitors. It's an opportunity for members of the audience to address the board on any subject whatsoever. I see a hand in the back. Yes, ma'am. Come up to the podium and address you, give us your name and address, please.
Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Veazey. So I don't know if you're familiar with me, then you know that I don't really care for public speaking too much. So I'm gonna try to get through this as swiftly as possible. This past school year, I haven't really been able to have the opportunity to be as plugged in as I would like to. I welcomed the fourth and final member into my family in October, so I've been kind of out of the loop, but I always like to be even-handed in my critiques or yeah, there's really no other way to put it. Critiques as I am when I notice something that's going very well or things that are going right. So I'll start by saying that I really appreciate a lot of the changes that I've seen over the course of this year as a contrast to last year. My daughters attend both Arcadia and Indiana schools. I've seen a much higher level of communication at the Indiana school. It's clearer communication. There's an abundance of communication. Parents kind of know everything that's happening there. There was a newsletter implemented called the Whiteboard, the Wildcat Whiteboard, that really helps parents put their eyes on pertinent issues, helps their children to reach the set and specific academic goals that the administrators have over there. And so it's beginning to feel like a family that includes the parents, and I greatly appreciate that. One thing that makes me nervous as time progresses in this world with technology, and you mentioned AI, and with all these rapid progressions, there's just, as a parent, I have so many concerns, and lately I've been kind of aware of some issues that come up in the schools that are coming up more and more often. So I know that school climate is comprised of so many different factors today than they were when I was a kid at school, and specifically I'm concerned about like social media and smartphones and just the implications thereof, and how prepared and knowledgeable the students and their parents are about these kinds of things. So there's like a lot of peer-to-peer conflict, and surprisingly, it's not just in the upper grades. Like we're talking lower elementary students, children in the second grade, in like group chats and such, and even having access to things like TikTok and so on. Even kids that are sheltered from these things, mine are. I know a lot of other parents who made the decision to shelter their children from things like that can be affected by these things because they could either become a topic of conversation in one of these side group chats, or it could just be because of the fact that they're excluded from these types of things, that they're maligned by their peers. And so a lot of the conflict that will arise from things that they're doing off campus with these social media accounts and these group chats, for instance, can really rear their heads, especially during like lunch periods. You know, it kind of provides a significant opportunity for these things to kind of really fester and even worsen. So needless to say, a lot of these issues can greatly impact students' mental health and thereby their academic performance. And personally, and I know that some of the other parents that I've been in conversation with feel like some of the best ways to address these issues can be through consistent, clear communication between home and school. So when the administrators are realizing that this is an issue that has been cropping up, to just communicate that with the parents so we can all get on board and have our eyes open to that parent and student education. And I know even the handbook addresses how the technology department really looks to educate children on safe internet practices. And so I just want that to kind of be extended to the parents. And then also a reliable and effective mediation system within the schools for these students. As far as the parent education piece of it goes, I know that one of the most highly anticipated and attended parent university sessions was regarding technology. And a lot of the parents there learned so many new tools. The Bark phone and Bark Technologies was one of the things that was brought up that was immensely helpful for a lot of parents that I know, for me personally as well. But just for us to have an opportunity to learn about how we can protect our kids in this increasingly technological age, again, especially with this AI technology that's out here where kids are sharing incredibly appropriate images of themselves and then having them turn into something entirely different with the use of AI. It's just really, it's a scary thing for me as a parent, and I think for parents in general. I think it would also be incredibly useful if we had that opportunity, like right off of the bat in the beginning of the school year, just to start out on the right foot with a parent university of that sort, discussing safe online practices and ways to safeguard our children and to keep eyes on certain things. I think also just to be abundantly clear with the school's expectations, and I know there's bits and pieces about cyberbullying and group chats and social media behavior as it stands in the student handbook, but I think the wording in the student handbook is something to the effect of it is a crime in Illinois to harass other people online, but nothing specifically discussing the school or the district's policy on abuses of other persons or fellow students online, because something may not be to the point where it needs to be filed as a police report, but it still negatively affects the student body. And then finally, regarding a reliable and effective mediation system within the school, recently my daughter was telling me about the program at Indiana School, and I was absolutely blown away by it. It is headed up by the assistant principal, Mrs. King, and I was really unaware of her extensive experience and knowledge when it comes to these restorative practices. And when I say extensive experience, I mean dealing with some really tough situations in areas of the city that experience, gang violence and domestic violence, some really, really heavy, hard-hitting issues. And she has been amazing in dealing with that and teaching the children excellent restorative practices. I've had some restorative practices used on me in my household because of Mrs. King, but it was wonderful to see. I mean, I learned some things about communication and how to go about resolving conflict in a healthy, wonderful way that led to, a deepening of our connection, a relationship among my children, in our family. It was wonderful, and all I could think was that she is underutilized. This is something that we all need to know. I think that the parents could stand to be in a class or have a parent university on this kind of conflict resolution. I mean, peer-to-peer, absolutely, that's where the focus is, so that it can change the environment of the school. And I'm not talking about just the big issues either. I mean, it could be a small issue. Somebody took a pencil from me and I felt like it was very disrespectful. These kids can hold on to a little experience like that, hold it in their hearts, and it can mess up their whole day, destroy their focus, tank their grades. Issues as small as that and as big as you can imagine are dealt with on the same scale there, and everybody feels comfortable to come to her, and they utilize this program, and resolution is seen. So I think, again, the parents could stand to have a parent university where we're taught about these awesome restorative practices. The kids could use this information to deal with these issues amongst one another in a healthy, effective way. A lot of people blame the pandemic for our children's kind of poor social skills. I feel like it stems farther than the pandemic, but neither here nor there, there's a lack of ability to conduct oneself in a positive way in social interactions. And I think that from what I've seen from the program at Indiana School, it should be implemented on a wider scale. The gifts and the talents that are in that restorative practices program, everybody needs to kind of be privy to that. It's too wonderful a resource to keep hidden under a bushel. And that's all I have to say. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr.
Quite a list, and thank you for bringing those things to our attention. Madam Superintendent.
I will say the effects of social media permeates all of our schools. We spend more time on that, on the lack of kindness, it's not the children so much, because we rarely have a physical altercation, but because you can distance yourself by putting something on a chat, then that's when we see that children can be rude, they can be crude, etc. So we spend a lot of time with that constantly. And even though, our policy is to turn off phones, it really does not, that's not the true solution. Working with our students and getting them to the point where they understand how we should interact with each other is the ultimate solution. But the effect of social media now, it is an issue. It certainly affects climate. Every once in a while, and I've shared, yesterday I had an example of children doing something that is positive. We have a janitor here. He's been in the district 20 years. His name is Sergio. He's just a wonderful, wonderful person that does everything for everyone. And there is a national program that honors not just educators, but a person that's identified within a school society that goes above and beyond. And so we nominated Sergio. He's a janitor, but we feel his presence, we feel his positivity, and all of the students were in agreement with that. And he is a national recognized change maker. They came yesterday and gave an award. But it was our young people that pushed out on Instagram, TikTok, I don't, every way that they could push out all over the neighborhood. And we saw votes coming in from college campuses, et cetera, because everyone recognized that Sergio has a good heart. So I give you that one example, but Mrs. Vesey is correct that social media in general, because things happen over the weekend and then they come back into the school and we have to deal with them. So this is something that is real to us. And you ask a question, Dr. Leatherwood, about using artificial intelligence. I still have that hesitation there. We still have that hesitation there. So that's the reason that it's not a part of our summer program. But I like the ideas that were presented. Parents have loved, and I'll share that with the board, the parent universities. Some of them, we just have had standing room only. So if we can influence one family at a time to influence their children to go in a positive direction, that's what we will do. So I took notes and I'm paying attention, but social media is an issue, and it's a problem, and I think it will grow in terms of its intensity. Perhaps we can do something in our environment, but the world as a whole, that's all you hear on the news, is something that was passed through social media, but usually it's negative. So I gave you that one positive example, but thank you for the ideas, and you're correct. Nothing is more important than the climate in which children learn, and the climate is influenced by a lot of different factors, and in today's society, one of those is social media.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, and thank you, Mrs. Beasley. I would just point out that every year, more and more is being asked of educators to take on responsibilities that heretofore have been taken care of in the family. And we recognize that families today are not what they were in years past, or at least the perception is they're not the same. But it becomes difficult to teach the 3 hours reading, writing, and arithmetic, as well as all of these social amenities. We do the best we can, but we really need the support of the families, of the parents, the grandparents, the neighbors, others to reinforce what is happening in the classroom. We understand the shifts, but we need the support of families and community to reinforce changes in society. It's important, and in some ways it's a support to the ego that you look to the school to take on this task. But I just want to point out that the primary task is the 3 hours, and we need, and we know that those three cannot be accomplished without some success in other areas. But I implore you to ask and make sure that the community supports what's happening in the schools, because that is the primary basis for us being successful. And that is, many of you know that my wife is an educator, and so I come to this not from any sort of osmosis from sitting in this chair, but she whispers in my ear to make sure that I understand what the job is of an educator. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean.
I just got a note here from one of the school board members pointing out that I had planned, looking at the agenda, to see if my heretofore record could be accomplished in terms of adjourning the meeting. And she says, so much for breaking my record. But we are coming upon 1 hour, and with nothing more, I will stand, this meeting will stand adjourned.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.